People who fix computers/laptops. What's the worst thing you found on someone's computer? 15 plus toolbars that took up half the screen. Hoo boy. The last company I worked for, I got a laptop back from one of the sales guys who was complaining that his computer was slow and kept crashing. He was the sort of guy who, rather than raise a ticket, sends an email with the entire exec team copied in about how he couldn't do his job because IT were incompetent, etc., etc. Well, I got his laptop from him and noticed the hard drive was completely full. Most of the sales stuff is web-based, so there was no reason for the local hard drive to have anything on it. So I had a look. Expertly hidden on his hard drive in a folder called Work Stuff was over 300 gigabytes of naked pictures and videos of himself. Literally thousands of pictures of him naked, videos of him dancing naked, videos of him shoving things in his butt. One extremely awkward meeting with the guy's manager later, he was quietly let go. The inside of a heavy smoker's computer is beyond disgusting. It creates a fine orangish film that coats every single internal component, smells wretched, and will become a noxious cloud if you try and blow it off. Just go outside and smoke. Seriously. Father-in-law got a new computer and wanted stuff transferred over. His old computer had viruses and ran like crap. Due to this, I tried to figure out what exactly needed transferring rather than just transferring everything after cleaning it up. Stumbled upon pictures of him in drag and him getting a dildo shoved up his butt. Why do people insist on large thumbnails? Why? Couple of things. I found a dead rat inside a PC one time. Customer couldn't fathom why it shorted out. Thing was like a mummy, too. Old 90-year-old dude comes in with a computer. Pop it on the tester/hook it up to a monitor, and his background is the most hardcore gay porno ever. There are like 10 customers waiting in the shop, so I quickly just turned off the monitor, swapped the desktop background out in the back, and did the work. Was at an old couple's house, backing up all their pictures, and those two old folks had some nasty self-filmed amateur porn on there. So many gray pubes. Had a customer come in and be like, I don't know why my computer isn't working. Load up the desktop and there's tons of malware. I asked what kind of sites he goes to so I can coach him on how not to get infected again. And like clockwork, a bunch of malware pop-ups start flashing and playing the Butt and Boobies song. Took everything in me to just hold it together. All the other things are par for the course. Crappy hidden porno folders labeled innocuously, like I'm not going to see some random folder labeled beach stuff that weirdly has like 3 terabytes in it while I'm backing up your files. Web histories to Nazi sites. Married dudes who 90% of their history is Craigslist hooker links. I mean, you work in IT for like 10 years, nothing surprises you anymore. Had the FBI come in one time and take a computer that we were fixing. One lady just left her kid, 2 years old, at the shop after dropping the computer off for like 3 hours till CPS came and there was a giant brawl in the waiting area. Someone took a dump on the floor in our line one time. All in all, it was a crazy, crazy job. Buddy on my floor freshman year worked at the college help desk. A guy who I actually knew through another friend brought his computer in to get fixed. He was adamant about saving what was on the hard drive. My buddy saw some interesting file names and decided to look further. It was kiddie porn. Dude went to jail, my buddy had to testify at trial. My coworker asked me to fix his computer and I agreed since he was a nice guy. It turns out it was actually his 13-year-old son's computer. As soon as I got it, I knew it was a bad idea. It was disgusting, covered in food particles and a white crusty residue I'm hoping wasn't preteen jizz. It wouldn't even boot up when I turned it on, but I managed to get inside with Windows startup repair. As soon as I logged in, I saw dozens of torrented video games and hundreds of gigabytes of porn. Oh boy, I ran a virus scan and it removed so many files that it corrupted the hard drive and prevented the laptop from booting. I spent over 20 hours trying to recover the hard drive, but it was royally effed. I gave the laptop back to him after I was able to get it booted and agreed to stop fixing PCs on the side. Not on, but in. A guy I know that fixed computers for a living years ago had a customer bring in a computer stating that the floppy drive had stopped working. When he opened it up, he found cockroaches mashed against the read/write heads in the drive. He said he just closed it up and left it on the front step for the guy to come and retrieve. My friend's dad used to fix up old computers and laptops, and one day he told us about this time this elderly man came into his shop to get his old desktop fixed. So he drops it off, and immediately my friend's dad notices it smells off, and I mean very off. So he goes to fix it, and when he pops open the side, I crap you not, 20 cockroaches climb out of this thing and scatter away. On the inside is this rotten piece of meatloaf left over which has turned moldy, black, and gross. My friend's dad said he almost threw up in the moment and they had to call an exterminator to kill the roaches. He called the elderly man back to tell him about his computer troubles. Apparently, the old man had dementia or something and thought the computer was a fridge, and he had stored his leftover meatloaf in there. Needless to say, they did not fix his computer. I worked for my university's IT department in the laptop depot, so we basically would do any repairs on students, faculty, staff's laptops. We had this really solid warranty with Dell where they were 100% covered for 4 years, even including intentional misuse. We saw all sorts of laptops full of dust, smoke, beer, wine, liquor. They would always say they spilled juice on their laptop. I got to the point where I could replace a motherboard on a Latitude D630 in under 5 minutes. The only time I ever saw a laptop that we refused to repair was one dude who barfed all over his. My boss just put on rubber gloves, put it in a plastic bag, and mailed it to Dell to be replaced. At my old job, some kid, probably 17 or 18 at the time, brought in his Asus gaming laptop for us to clean up. The thing was riddled with malware. Some of the files we had to manually delete, and when we went looking, we found something interesting. He had hours of S-tapes with him and his girlfriend. Also, keep in mind, this is when Windows 8.1 was new, and he photo tile on the start menu cycled through saved content. When the kid came to pick up the laptop, the Photos app showed a preview pic of his GF's butt and his penis clearly inside her. We quickly flipped the laptop around, claiming that we forgot to re-enable something and turned off the live tiles feature so that the pics would show up. None of us that worked on the laptop said a thing to the kid or his dad when they came to pick it up. A crusty old man walked into the shop with a look in his eyes like a child who just stole from the cookie jar. The year is 2017, but he asks me if I can burn a CD for him. I am confused, but I indulge the customer's request. I ask him what he wants burned to the CD. He simply points to a folder titled New Folder. By instinct, I double-click, and in that moment, what little innocence I had left died. In that indescribable folder, hundreds of pictures of what I'm assuming is his wife in what can only be described as explicit positions. I'm sure she is a fine lady, but age has not been kind to her. The lack of hygiene and poor diet didn't help either. Frozen in place, I slowly turned my head to the old man's gaze, only to be met with a simply indescribable grin and a slow nod. Never before in my life has I been that afraid, disgusted, and stunned, but I had a job to do. I grabbed a dusty old 700 megabyte CD and burned those images to its form. It was done, the transaction was made, but I was robbed of my innocence and of my sanity. I don't fix computers, but my parents gave me a task of fixing the family computer. Few clicks here and there, and I ended up on my sister's other Facebook account. She was selling herself over on Facebook. She posted her prices and schedule. She also had 100 plus messages from guys asking to meet up. I felt so sick. I told my dad, expecting him to talk to her about it. He ended up kicking her out that night. Our family hasn't been the same since then. My friend has a 10-year-old brother who wanted his computer fixed. It wasn't anything major, and all I had to do was clear and back up his files. I then decided to clear his history because that can sometimes be a thing that slows your computer down, so I opened it. There was a ton of porn in his history, mainly really messed up hentai. Worst of all, he caught me looking at this crap. He got mad at me, and we never brought it up again. My brother works on laptops, and one time a guy came in to get Windows 8 put on his computer. This man was an old family friend, and while he was backing up files, he found a video of the man's daughter. I won't go into detail of what it is for the sake of keeping my blood pressure down, but my brother immediately alerted the authorities, and the man is now serving a 12-year prison term. He's just lucky my brother was at his place of business, or I believe he would have killed him instead of calling the law. I worked for a repair center for a few years. Most of the time it was usually like a family man with a hidden gay folder. Nothing wrong with that, but you could tell the wife and stuff didn't know. Found bestiality maybe once or twice. Both times were great days at work because the jokes were cranked too high those days. We found underage stuff only one time. We had this dude that came in all the time and he was weird as F. He looked like a stereotypical pedo you'd see on TV. He had long greasy hair, always wore sweatpants with jean shorts over top and a short sleeve polo with a sweatshirt underneath. It was the strangest effing getup ever. Anyway, he would come in every 6 months or so to have his PC worked on, and when we asked for the password to get into it, he would refuse. So our only option would be for format the drive and reload the OS. So we did that every 6 months for like 2 years. One day he comes in and tells us not to wipe and reinstall this time, and that he took the PW off the computer because he needs the data this time. We go through and get rid of the adware he kept complaining about, but I was curious now. So I went to his drive directory and typed .jpeg.png into the drive search, which then locates all those extensions. Sure enough, it's what we all thought. So we called the cops and had them wait in the building the day he said he was going to pick the machine up. Used to work at a small computer repair shop. Every now and then you'd find porn or something like that, nothing unusual. The worst part was usually the physical state of the machines. As a courtesy, the shop I worked for would always blow the dust out of the systems that came in. Smokers' computers were the worst. Years of tar and dust buildup just would not come loose. There was one system that as soon as we opened it, we saw dozens of roaches inside. We quickly closed up the case, taped up all openings, stuck it in a bag, and fumigated it. There was this other time that a customer brought their system in for weird performance issues. Turns out their cat puked through the side vent all over the motherboard. Customer wanted to pay for us to clean it rather than replace it. I used to work for a Native American tribe, and the other tribe's lawyer was a butt who demanded to be waited on hand and foot. One day I was surfing through the program we used to remote into other computers, and it will take a screenshot of the last thing the computer was doing. There it was. He was looking at chicks with D's. I notified my supervisor, which he notified his supervisor. I was told to look the other way. I gave up. You want me to enforce policy on other users but not him? So I found a new job and quit. Someone once brought in a cooler to the repair shop. I was completely confused, asked awkwardly if I could help the guy. Guy opens the cooler and hands me a freezing laptop that's keyboard is literally bowed out because of the ice that formed in the motherboard. Apparently, the guy spilled water all over his computer, and his friend told him to put it in the freezer so it would turn into a solid. Dumbest thing I have ever experienced. One time, a woman shipped her laptop to me to have it fixed from a satellite office. It just stopped working, she said. When I opened the box and took it out, a bunch of red wine leaked out of the case onto the floor. It's the worst thing that I've found because I hate red wine. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.